Right now, I'm just bummed out. I have no QR codes in my PowerPoint. I don't know if I have to do anything to get it started or if they'll do it. Start the slideshow. Good. So what I'm going to do here is the PowerPoint is the full talk that I give. I actually gave this at Staples in December of 23, and Molly covered a lot of good stuff. So I'm going to give you the overview and then go through the key things that I want you to know from this talk. And again, we'll have questions after. And same, this is when I know this is being recorded when I go to schools, and it's not, I give out this number. You can text the word recruiting to that 678 number, and the PowerPoint will go out if you want it, or you could just watch the recording. So this process is absolutely one of the most brutal things you will ever go through. Recruiting is, for kids, young kids, it'll be the most difficult thing you've ever done to date in your life. So I want to just give you a quick overview, and then I'm going to give you a little preamble and then get to that thing. So the recruiting process is 3 main steps. Step number 1 is, what schools are right for me based on what I want out of college, as Molly talked about. What part of the country, what size schools, cities, suburbs, etc. What do I want to major in? The academic piece, and then the athletic piece. How good are you at your sport, which is something I'm going to cover. So step 1, which takes a while, is what are the right schools? You want to call it a list? I'm going to make a list of 30, 50 schools that you've investigated. Step 1 is, where do I fit into the landscape? Step number 2 is, how in the world do I get these coaches at these schools, many which aren't even in the geographical area, to know that Staples High School is even a high school, and then I'm a junior volleyball player that's interested in their program. So how do I bridge the gap between me and the colleges that are doing the recruiting, okay, which is what we'll cover also. And then the third step is, when I am a recruit, and what does it mean to be recruited? Because many kids think they're getting recruited when it's just a form thing or a camp invite or it's just junk. It's not really being recruited. Once you're actually being recruited, what does a recruit go through before they ultimately commit to a school? So that's the quick overview. Before I get to that, I always ask this question: what % of high school athletes go on to play at any level of college? That's NCAA Division 1, 2, or 3, junior college, community college, or NAIA, which, you know, is not a typical thing here in the Northeast, or that Staples kids are going to, but big in the Midwest and some down south. Anyone want to guess what % of all sports, male, female, high school athletes go on to college? Yell it out. Anyone, just yell it out. All right, it's 7. So you'll have to squint for this next thing, but this is the NCAA study, not mine. It actually looks really clear up here, which is good, but they don't cover every sport. But it's the last time that they produced participation rates. So just the one up top, baseball, 480,000 plus high school athletes. 36,000 at the NCAA level, not counting NAIA junior college. 7.5% make it to college. 2.2 Division 1, 2.3 Division 2, 2.9% Division 3. So this is the male sports that they track. Here's the female sports that the NCAA tracks. So it goes as low on this: volleyball 3.9, ice hockey 26.2. You shake it all out, it comes out to 7%. That means 93% of high school athletes will not play in college. Now, I guarantee you the numbers at Staples probably double that, maybe up to 20%, because you have a great high school, okay? But still, it's going to be really, really competitive. So the thing I get asked all the time is, what do I have to have? What does my son or daughter have to have to be in that 7%? Some of this is common sense. It may not be. You got to be really, really good at your sport. You got to have the skill. You got to be motivated, because you'll get to college. It's going to be incredibly difficult once you get there. The college kids that are on the team, many of them are very much older now from COVID and transferring and all that. They don't say, oh, this freshman here is coming in from Staples. You know what? I've been a starter 3 years. You take my spot. No, they're happy you're there, but not so happy you're there, right? So you have to be really motivated, and you have to have the physical traits, size, speed, height, strength that goes for your sport, okay? Number 2, you have to be a serious student, and Molly did an unbelievable job talking about those requirements. But again, 30 years as a college coach, if you had good grades, but I talked to your counselor or your teacher and found out you kind of were coasted through, forget it. We'll just move on to somebody else. Even if you have a lower GPA, but you work hard for that, that's what coaches want. Now, some coaches at the big revenue producing football, basketball programs, they're looking for talent probably more than anything else. But most coaches want good athletes, but they don't want academic headaches. They'll just recruit somebody else who's similar on the field, but going to be in a better shape academically. Number 3, you have to have an understanding of the recruiting process. And most the world knows about a third of what's going on. And I describe that as knowing a third about how to do heart surgery. Like, maybe you're right, but you're probably in trouble. And you know this from friends and parents and posts and social media and all these different things. But hopefully with what you got from Molly and me and these students here, you'll get a better understanding. And then to me, maybe most important is, what is your development plan? What are you sleeping like? Are you scrolling all night? Are you getting to sleep? What's your nutrition plan? Do you skip breakfast or eat something junky? Are you on a lifting program? Are you on a skill development program? Because ultimately I coached for so long, I would see a kid in 10th grade and be like, nah, not for us, not good enough. And then see the kid a year later and completely offer that kid. Maybe they physically grew, but maybe they woke up and started to really develop and really, basically got to the level that I was at for recruiting. And again, these are the things that you're going to need when you get to college, and you're going to need as an adult in life. You're going to need to be able to be a self-motivated individual. So I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. So this slide and the next one simply say the first place to start when doing this whole process is, what kind of colleges do I like if sports was not a factor? And I put up there the broken leg scenario. But the reality is there's a lot of reasons college athletes don't last 4 years in their sport. They're not having any fun. They're not getting any playing time. They need an internship, a job. They got to work. They get a boyfriend. They get a girlfriend. They get cut. They get out recruited. So to go to a school, I'm going to go to Pace University because the soccer coach loves me. He doesn't have my major. It's too close to home. Well, if your soccer works out, you may love that you went to Pace. But if the soccer doesn't work out in sophomore year, you go, why did I pick this place? It's not right for me. I want to leave. So this information you can get from books and websites and Naviance and College Board, whatever Staples use, and the counselors that are so great that they're here on a long day to put this event on, which is awesome. But going out and visiting is the best thing you can do. Go look at Central. Go look at UConn. Go look at Babson. Go look at BC and Harvard. Just drive around. And then, because the kids, when you say, what do you want out of college? Until they've been there, they have no earthly idea. And I'm not talking about open houses or admissions tours or meeting coaches. I'm talking about for Easter, you're going to see a relative in Pennsylvania. You should hit 4 schools on the way and 4 on the way back. You could walk around for 10 minutes, not even leave your car, but you'll start to get an idea of what is right for the person and not what the dad says or uncle says or boyfriend or girlfriend. So the first place is you should ultimately have a list of schools where sports doesn't even have a factor, okay? Then the second piece is, and you can see how to assess your talent level. Sorry, parents, I have 2 boys playing college sports. I'm the worst judge of athletic talent. Parents are the worst judges of athletic talent. Why are the parents the worst judges of athletic talent? It's 2 real reasons. This guy looks like he wants to fight me. But one is you love your kids. You love your kids and you just see them in the best possible way. But the other reason is you are not a coach recruiting the entire New England area. You're not a coach recruiting the whole United States. You're not a coach recruiting internationally. So yeah, my kid's good in the FCAC, good at Staples, good in their travel team. They must be Division 1. Maybe they're Division 4. Maybe they're part of the 93% not good enough to play at any level of college. So Molly gave a great thing, which I'll show up here, which I underlined, bolded, and exclamation pointed, is you got to go watch the colleges play in person. Every sport that's on TV looks way easier on TV, right? Everything looks easier on TV, but to go watch the various levels of college in person, 2 hours of practice or watch a game, you may really get a gut feeling, wow, I thought that WestCon was going to be like 13th grade, like barely better than Staples. Holy cow, look at the size, speed, and strength of those players. Or you might go to Quinnipiac and go, gee, I didn't think I could play Division 1, but I'm watching 2 hours of practice. I could play here. It's the best thing you could possibly do, along with asking friends that you played with that are playing in college. You played with them. They know your talent level. You know theirs. They're in college. It's a great resource. Your coaches that are with you all the time. That's requirement 1 that should happen from your – it's not your Staples coaches' jobs to get you recruited. It's not in their job description. But for you to say to them, hey, listen, I'm interested in playing in college. What level do you think is right for me? You've been coaching field hockey for 13 years. You've sent 15 players off. How do I fit in? Am I Division 1, 2, 3, not good enough? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? If you're on a travel team or you take lessons, anyone that's with you on a regular basis, if you don't ask, you're gonna spend a lot of time thinking UVA wants you, UNC, Duke, Clemson. and they have no interest in you. And then finally you'll realize Middlebury and Amherst and Tufts and Williams are the right fit, but you waited so long, they've got their class already. They're not interested anymore. So the single best thing you could do is try to find out where you are in this process, in addition to going to camps. Camps have two purposes. One, a lot of times they'll actually grade you out. I've run camps for a long time, and at every end of every camp, I would say, if you're interested in knowing my feedback, just send me an email, and I will send you back exactly what I saw. Just know it's going to be brutally honest. And many camps will do that, and the coach is giving you honest feedback. But you also get to compare yourself, maybe for the first time, with other people in your recruiting pool. So you're that volleyball player, you go to the Penn State camp, there's 150 motivated high school volleyball players, and you're like, holy cow, whoa. Like, there's 150 girls here. I'm 149 out of 150. The other girl, she broke her ankle. So, like, you realize, holy mackerel, it's really, really competitive. And I encourage you, without stressing, because I think the world's stressed out. I do these to de-stress people. But when would I be trying to figure out how good my son or daughter is? 7th, 8th, 9th grade. Why? Well, I'd rather find out they're great, but their speed is not good enough, and they could work on their speed starting in 9th grade, rather than find out junior year going into the summer, a coach says, man, I really like you, but if you just were a little faster. So I'm not telling you have to start the recruiting process, but if they're serious about it, you got to go through trying to figure out, and this process here could take you a year, 6 months, if you really work it. Okay. And on that note, I do say ask friends a lot, because all my years of coaching in college, if I had a kid from Darien High School, and then I heard about another kid from Darien High School. So I have a kid on my roster from Darien High School, and I hear about another kid from Darien. What do you think I would do? Go right to the kid. Hey, Justin, or this kid from high school emailed me. What do you think about him? Wow, that kid, if you could get that kid, great kid, clutch player, awesome. We'd love to have him in the family on the team. Wow, going right after the kid. Doesn't say you'll offer the kid, but you'll actually go look at him because of his recommendation. If he says, I don't know, some problems, his kid's not good, he doesn't take coaching, done. Absolutely done. So it's a word of mouth type thing. So the goal is ultimately to figure out, maybe I'm low level Division I, maybe some Division II, high level Division III lacrosse player. Okay, then I have a list of schools that fits me academically, fits the kind of campus environment I want, and fits me in an athletic standpoint. And there's my 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 schools. So that's step one. I'm going to go rather quick, so get through to everybody, and then questions could be asked after. There's only one slide on step 2. This is really important. If you get a no from a college coach, if a college coach says, we don't need goalies in the 26 class, we don't think you're good enough, your grades aren't going to get you in here. If you get a no from a coach, you should go to school the next day, hand out flowers. You should be psyched, because out of those 93% that do not play in college, 80% of them will never get a no. And I use this silly example, but I think it's helpful. 2 people say they want to be actors. They want to be actors, right? One doesn't have an agent, doesn't have headshots, isn't on any off-Broadway plays, and never gets auditions for any parts, but wants to be an actor. The other one has an agent, has headshots, acts all the time, has had 15 auditions, has been rejected 15 times. Who's closer to really breaking through and being an actor? I think we know the second person, because all you need is one yes. You get a role and you become, an actor, paid actor for life. It's the same thing here. You don't need 15 schools to love you. And I guarantee you 15 schools won't love you. But if you have a list of 15 and 4 or 5 are interested and 3 really like you and make an offer, you're going to go on and be a college athlete. So there's really only I'm going to put them all up now. There's really only a combination of 3 things that you can do to go from an unknown to a known. Number 1, be seen playing live. The best of all worlds is that a college coach watches you play at Staples or watches you play in your travel team. But keep in mind one thing, I should have probably said it before. Many people think it's easy to recruit as a college coach. Like coaches just sit there in the office and go, no, I don't want this kid. I'll take that. I'll take you. I'll take you. No, recruiting is brutal. It's a big country, hundreds of thousands of kids, a lot of teams, a lot of tournaments, a lot of camps. Except for the sport of football, there's basically 3 recruiters. And then, of course, when your high school season's happening, what's happening at the college level? They're in season 2, which is why summer travel gets more attention because the coach isn't in season then. So the goal is to watch you live, whether that's at a high school game, a travel game, or a camp. So I want to talk briefly about camps because you're probably all of the age where you're getting overwhelmed with camp invites. Does anyone raise your hand if you're getting a lot of camp invites yet? So we're getting a few. I don't know what the age is. Yeah. You hit junior year, your inbox gets flooded. Okay. Now camps, there people always say it's a moneymaker, blah, blah, blah. This, you can't do tryouts. The Central Connecticut coaches cannot say, hey, you know what? Drive up Thursday from Staples. We'll jump you, put you in a practice. We'll work out at the end of the day. We'll tell you if you're good enough. It's not allowed. Can't do tryouts. So camps are the legal way around tryouts. And there's 2 types of camps, and I advise you look into both. One is the showcase camp that might have 20, 30, 40 colleges, usually run by a business. They're running it to make money. They pay the college coaches to be there. On their nice website, they have all the colleges that will be there and the name of the coach. And on June 15th, this camp's going to be run at Wesleyan College with 30 coaches, and you can go there one day and get all those schools to see you. Now, it's flawed because there's a lot of kids. The coach, you want to be seen by Trinity. The Trinity coach is watching field 4 while you're killing it on field 6, and you don't get to match up. Sometimes they send the lowest coach on the totem pole who's 22 years old, who has no pull with recruiting. You have a great day. That coach goes back to the head coach, says, I just saw this girl from Staples. She's awesome. And the coach says, you don't really know what you're doing yet, right? So the best camps you can go to are the prospect camps directly on that college's campus. Central Connecticut will run prospect camps. You get to meet all the coaches, see the facilities, see the school. The coaches get to run the workout the way they want to run it so they can evaluate you in the way that they want. You get to meet current players on the team and talk to them. Are you happy here? Do you like the school? Do you like the coaching staff? So that's a huge thing. And it's overwhelming if you don't have a list of schools. But if you have a list of 10, 12 schools, you just go on the website, find when their prospect camp is. And if it fits your schedule, they're usually very cheap. The showcase camp could be $1,500. The one-day Central Connecticut prospect camp is probably $125. Okay. Number 2, video. It's the modern world. You got to have video, highlights, full games, practice, anything. You got to have something that's your calling card. It might be the video that gets them to come watch you. It might be no one watches your video till the next thing I'm about to talk about. But you should have an X account or a Twitter account. And ideally, if there's stats or metrics that fit for your sport, it's easier. And there's one thing I just realized I skipped. I want to say briefly because of our other athletes here. It's easier for individual sport athletes to figure out how good you are. It's easier for a swimmer, a runner, a golfer, a tennis player to figure out how good you are because you have you versus the water, you versus the track, what your mile time is, what your 200 backstroke is. Whereas you could be on the Staples football team and say, I made 50 tackles last year, and no one cares. They don't care about your team sports stats, your batting averages, your points per game. But an individual sport where it's you versus the ground or the pool, it matters a lot. So we'll get back to that. So video with some metrics is important. So you really, I hate to say it, not encouraging social media, but that's the platform where coaches will follow you and track you. And then a trusted reference. I'll tell you right now, if someone that has some credibility calls a college coach and says, hey, I got a kid that's good for you, whether that's your high school coach, an alum, a pro, a scout, a summer coach, it will guarantee that you will get evaluated. Doesn't mean recruited. So if your high school coach calls up Bucknell and says, I got a girl here that I think is one of the best players I've had. She's a great student. She'd be a great fit for you at Bucknell. That coach doing their job will evaluate. They might say, I don't think she's good enough, or her game doesn't fit the way we run it. But that's going to move it ahead. Or the reference might get them to come watch a game or watch your video. There's no one magic way in this world that everyone does their recruiting. So it's a combination of those 3 things. And again, there might be questions on it after. Briefly talk about what's on the bottom of this screen. Again, no one way is magic. I hear people say, I'll just go to this camp where my 2 friends got recruited. So all I have to do is go there in August. Then you don't feel well, you miss the camp or you play poorly or it just doesn't match up properly. So it's a combination of things. The goal is to build a relationship. This is to build a relationship, to get to a coach to know who you are, communicate with you by email, phone or something, build a relationship. Oh, so you want to follow up, coach? I was at your camp. It was really well run. I really enjoyed it. You're my top choice. What did you think of my performance? You're communicating. Recruiting services, of which there's a million, NCSA, Be Recruited, Go Big, etc. You know what you do? If you're going to do one of those, drive home tonight, see someone down in their luck, and just hand them a bunch of cash that you were going to give to that. They're all an absolute joke. Save your money. End of story. Okay. When is the right time to start recruiting? There's two answers to that. One is there are NCAA rules. In most sports, it's August 1 going into your junior year where they're officially allowed to offer you and you're allowed to accept. The big schools, the Power 4 schools, the Clemsons, the Florida States, they know all the 27s now. They all know all the 28s now. They can't legally touch base with you. But this is major business. The coaches make $7 million a year. They know everybody who is out there. Okay, so it's not like August 1st, they go, oh, yeah, let's take a look at who the 27s are. No, they know who all the 27s are. But I also say the right time to start recruiting is when you're ready, when your skill is good enough, when your body's where it wants to be, when your nutrition is locked in, when you're sleeping properly, when you feel comfortable talking to a coach. You know what a college coach is? An adult who didn't want to get a regular job. That's all they are. You don't have to be fearful of anyone. They're just grown-up children. That's all they are. Right? That's why I coached for 30 years, because I could not have to put on a suit, wear, baseball pants, and never have to do wash because I wore the same thing. I'm really getting off topic. So step one is, what's the right place for me? Step two is, how do I bridge the gap? Okay. And then step three, and some of this I'm skipping over because she did a great job of covering that. I'm just going to go through this really briefly, almost might be too quickly, but once you are being recruited, and Villanova's calling you, and Lehigh's calling you, and Bucknell's calling you, and Lafayette's calling you, Georgetown's calling you, Colgate. This is great. But now you have to go, oh my God, I'm getting, which one's right for me? And you have to start researching them to see what's the right fit for you. And there's basically 4 categories of things I tell people to look at. How are they supporting you academically? Your reason to go into college is to get an education, get a degree, get a job and career. How does this school manage that? And they should be explaining that to you. It's part of recruiting. Here's why we have a good college. Our team is good. Here's how we support you. What are the coaches really like? Coach, and I heard a great thing it's worth passing on to you. A coach at University of Georgia said to me, I tell all the recruits, there's golf cart me and regular me. And I go, what are you talking about? He goes, golf cart me is when I'm driving them around campus with the family in the golf cart, and I'm making jokes and I'm funny. He goes, but I'll also tell them when practice starts, I'm going to rip your head off. That's the way I coach. If you don't like it, look somewhere else. So a lot of times kids get recruited. Oh, it's so nice to be wanted. This is great. And then you get there and you find out the coach is completely different, or they coach the sport in a way that doesn't fit you, or an assistant coach you spend all your time with, you never even got to know. Third thing, recruiting. What are the plans for you? Are they going to redshirt you? Are they going to move you from offense to defense? Do they have 11 other girls that play defense coming in the 26 class? You should be asking questions. What do you like about me? What's potentially my future and it's never going to be crystal clear because you got to work for it, but you should know. And then, as Molly, I'm sure, can attest to, all athletic departments are different, meaning some travel by coaches driving vans. Some have off-campus facilities. Some have their own chartered planes. Some have full-time strength and conditioning coaches and team doctors and full-time trainers. And what are the, concussion policies and drug testing policies? There's a lot of different things that once you start to get recruited, you need to look for. And I sort of say this just so parents understand. It's like, imagine you're out of work for 6 months and you're networking and you're doing a job search. And then all of a sudden you have a bunch of interviews, and on one day, 4 companies call to offer you a job, and you have to decide in a week. You would say, well, what's the pay? What's the benefits? What's the chance of advancement? Remote work, expense account, what project? You could ask them a lot of questions before you knew which is the best job to take. Same exact thing here. Okay. And a coach will explain a lot of this, but you should also know what to look for. I have a friend in coaching who is a nice guy. They don't have a great weight room. Guess what? The athletic tour doesn't include the weight room. So if you don't ask about the weight room, you're not going to see the weight room. You're going to enroll and get there and go, hold on, I didn't know there's not a weight room like these other schools had because they didn't show it to you. Okay. And then this didn't fit on the screen, and we're not going to get into this now. But if you don't ask the right questions, this is me signing into the transfer portal. There's generally about 25, 30,000 kids in all sports in the portal. Some of them are good stories. Some of them are out of eligibility, had redshirt years. Their college doesn't have graduate school. So they're going to go from Swarthmore in a D3 and they're going to go to Georgetown to play their last year. Awesome. But there's a lot of kids that are disgruntled, that didn't ask the tough questions, that go, oh my God, it's so great to get offered from this coach, commit, and then within 2 months they hate it. And they get homesick and they don't want to be there. Last two things is admissions piece. And she did a great job of saying there's an NCAA requirement. It doesn't mean you get recruited if you're in the NCAA eligibility center. Okay. There's thousands of people that register for the NCAA eligibility center who never hear from one college coach, go play club or intramural, never get recruited. Okay. But what typically happens is when a coach likes you as a player, the next thing they do is ask for a transcript and they do a pre-read on you. What's your address, social media accounts, intended major, scholarship candidate, honors eligible, community service, any discipline issues. It's a whole intake form. That pre-read form with your transcript goes to admissions. And admissions basically turns around as quick as they can and tells you, at this moment in time, this person's inadmissible. Doesn't mean they're denied. They haven't applied to the school. But at this snapshot in time, March 24th, with what you showed me, this person can't get in. Or they're admissible. Doesn't mean they're accepted. They haven't applied. If the admission says you're accepted and you tanked the last year and a half of your high school career, you're not going to get accepted. If you keep your grades up, you're fine. And then there's usually an academic award to that. So again, at Sacred Heart, there's 16 years. We get it back the next day. Admissible, $16,000 academically. And then as coaches, we'd meet and say, do we want to add, athletic money to this? Then call the kid up the next day, say, hey, great news. You were admissible. If you keep your grades this way, you got $16,000 in academic. We're going to match that with $16,000 in athletic money. That's $32,000 a year. It's 55%. We'll give you a month. Okay. If you're into the Ivies, you should Google academic index. There's a thing in the Ivies where the Ivies have basically agreed to recruit the same way to keep the integrity of the conference. So one year it's Columbia goes, we're not winning enough. Let's just let anyone in and start winning. It's agreed upon that won't happen in the Ivy League. And if there's Ivy people, I know we have an Ivy student, you want to Google what the academic index is for the recruiting process. Last thing, this takes a lot, but you can maybe screenshot or whatever. These are the women's sports that offer scholarships at the Division I level is on the left column. The Division II is on the right column. I want to make sure, I have to look at one thing when I get to the men. Yes, this is updated because the NCAA made a bunch of rules and changed and lowered scholarship rosters, lowered rosters in a lot of sports in Division I, but up scholarships. And again, Molly, how long could we talk about scholarships for? The rest we could talk for an hour. But this is just a quick number to see what the salary cap is. And then there's a lot to navigate there. Last two things I always talk about, which I'm not going to now, how to make a final decision, because recruiting, kids get crazy stressed 2 times in recruiting. One is their friends are committing, their friends are getting interest, they got nothing. Very stressful. Number 2 is a coach wants a decision. They've been offered from 3 schools. They have 2 weeks to decide. So this is just a snapshot of how I talk people through it. Last thing, I'll just put this back up here. And this was for the high school. I'm not selling any books tonight. I'll give free books to the school if you want it. I wouldn't sell anything here, but that is my cell phone. That's my email address. I don't know if that was 20 minutes, 18 or 22. I am sweating, but that was fun. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is PJ Washenko. I'm one of the other school counselors at the high school. I just want to thank Molly and Wayne again for giving us all their expertise and valuable information. As you can see, it's a lot. But a lot of times when we run these events, when it's appropriate, we love to bring the student voice into the process because we can give you a lot of the information. They're living it right now. So